Browns back on the practice field after a day off on Sunday, and they had to do some maneuvering here to avoid the weather that you can see behind us. Of course, you can see those clouds kind of hovering over the mountains. You can probably see it's raining behind us. So the Browns moved their practice up to 8:45 this morning, Mary Kay, but it's still significant because it was their first padded practice.
It really was, and it was kind of interesting to watch these guys when they would catch a pass. They would just swish and splash into the water on the turf. So it wasn't exactly the first padded practice they were hoping to have. It would have been short anyways, but this one was a little bit soggier than usual, but they got some work in.
Yeah, and they didn't practice on these fields behind us. They were waterlogged. There's a field down below us here, this direction that is turf, so they were practicing on that. It was still pretty slick down there, though, Ashley.
Yeah, I mean, this, again, just not ideal, I'm sure, for what they wanted during their first padded session, but we do know, and Kevin talked about this on Saturday, this was always going to be a bit of a lighter day anyway. They did the same thing last year, so it sounds like they'll even be in shells possibly tomorrow, so yeah, it's just that usual ramp up, but it was no joke out here even walking over here to get back to this tent to record this.
Now, probably most significantly, we heard from Andrew Berry today as the Browns continued their parade of VIPs and their press conferences. So Andrew Berry speaks today, Mary Kay. Just some things that we took away. I thought it was interesting, him talking about Amari Cooper. This is the first time we've talked to him since that contract was redone. And he was sort of, I mean, obviously he never talks about contracts. You never know what's going to happen, but he did sort of have a forward-looking way of talking about Amari and how he could be here longer than he's been anyplace else. He sounded optimistic that Amari would be here past this year.
Well, you know, they have a tremendous affinity for Amari Cooper. The feeling is mutual. Obviously, Amari said the other day that he would like to finish his career here, so I'm sure there have been some discussions about a longer-term situation. And just because they did this one-year thing doesn't preclude them from going ahead and extending him. That can happen during the season, around the trade deadline. It can happen after the season, but certainly the feeling is mutual between these two parties.
Yeah, Ashley, it just sounds like, you know, Andrew loves Amari. Amari loves being here. This just seems like something that should work out.
Yeah, I think ultimately after hearing from Andrew Berry today, after hearing from Amari Cooper the first day out here at the Greenbrier, I think the sentiment amongst fans who maybe were worried about any angst kind of hanging over his spring holdout, that's just not happening. Amari is perfectly happy here. He talked earlier in the week, of course, that it was still so difficult for him to hold out because he's never missed OTAs, he's never missed a mini camp in his 10-year career. And yeah, I mean, I think it's meaningful when Andrew Berry, who of course will never discuss ongoing contract things, comes out here and points out that, hey, at the end of the day, ideally, Amari Cooper has the chance to be with the Browns longer than any other organization he's been with in his career.
Now, Andrew Berry said something else significant here today. Now, the Haslams said on Saturday when they spoke that they feel like the fan base maybe favors a dome. Well, so does their general manager. It's not a surprise, Mary Kay. This is a very analytics thing. He just feels like, let's put these guys in a position where they can perform at their best away from their elements. And of course, it's good for the fans too. But Andrew, kind of the first guy, probably is the first guy that just came out and said what he at least would prefer.
He is the first person in this organization that has come out and unequivocally stated that he prefers a dome. And I thought that was very significant. If your GM, one of the highest ranking officials in the club, is saying that he prefers a dome, I think it's sort of a sentiment that really is growing throughout the organization. And he put voice to it, and I do think that that is significant. Of course, he said he would be happy with any outcome, but knowing that he prefers a dome, I think that that's going to weigh into this whole thing.
And again, not surprising, when you're a GM who's building a team and you have Amari Cooper, you want him to be able to play like Amari Cooper every Sunday, not be slipping around in snow and rain and all. You want this team to always be able to perform at its peak. So I'm not all that surprised by this, Ashley.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, though. Andrew did get asked, hey, does playing in a dome for your home games change how you build your team? And he basically said no. He rattled off a bunch of quarterbacks that have not played in domes with some past happy teams, including Tom Brady in New England. He went through Ben Roethlisberger, Josh Allen. Now, those were some of the names he listed. So it is interesting, but like you said, I mean, I think this is kind of, I'm surprised he came out so strongly with the take, but I'm not surprised this is his take because analytics-wise, yeah, you would want them to be as close to playing in a vacuum as you can get to maximize their skill sets.
Yeah, for someone who's pretty tight-lipped, and he has loosened up around us a little bit and gotten more comfortable. But it was a little surprising to hear him come out that strongly. Now, Mary Kay, something that we thought was the case, but Andrew sort of reiterated this. It seems like Greg Newsome, Dalvin Tomlinson, there is a chance that those two could be ready to go by week 1.
Yeah, he said it's absolutely a realistic chance that they could be ready, even though they just recently both underwent surgeries, and we haven't seen them out here yet, and they will be out for a while. So that's good news for the defense, obviously, because they are 2 starters, 2 key guys on this defense.
Yeah, and of course, when you're going against that Dallas Cowboys offense, you want to have all hands on deck, whether they're 100%, whatever percentage they are. If you can get them out there, Ashley, it's going to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think right now there's ripple effects for both of those guys being gone. The D-line is obviously so deep, but knowing that they're going to that 3-tech nose tackle situation on the inside, to me it's really interesting because Shelby Harris is the one guy who really can play at either of those spots. So you get him more in that nose tackle rotation. You might get more 3-tech guys in there, might mean more snaps for a guy like Michael Hall Jr., of course. So it's really interesting. We've seen a lot of Tony Brown, the second in the slot so far these opening days of camp without Greg Newsome, but 2 huge guys in terms of what this defense is trying to do.
Okay, busy day here, an earlier day than we expected, but of course we heard from Andrew Berry. We did hear from David Njoku a little bit today as well. We will cover everything that happened here at the Greenbrier at cleveland.com/Browns.